Hi, I'm Steve, you. Welcome to DigiVice. Today we're talking to Sam from SMB Health. He's a Harvard-trained neurologist turned mindset coach, and he's going to help us get through this situation that's going on and see it in a positive light, see it as a opportunity rather than an obstacle. Over to you, Sam.
Thank you, Steve. First and foremost thing, most of what currently people going through is pure fear, and also fear of missing out. All right. So there is panic everywhere. There is so much of uncertainty everywhere, and then people don't know what to do and how to go about it, and they are quite bit worried about the future. For a lot of people, they think that the future looks very bleak because either they lost their job or they lost their business, or people wondering about what am I going to do with my mortgage and what am I going to do with my rent, so forth. So it's quite common, and it's not uncommon for people to panic when an unexpected situation like coronavirus came and hit them really hard and their families as well. So first and foremost thing to do is to have a mindset of flexibility and also adaptability. Okay, flexibility meaning that if we are not flexible, like a bamboo tree for that matter, good example, it's much easier for like other trees to break.
Yeah.
Flexibility meaning that not giving up on our principles and values, but more of thinking out of the box, and then what we can actually do currently based on whatever is present. Okay, all right. So that's the flexibility side of things. And then adaptability is quite important too. How can we mold ourselves and become more adaptable to the situation? And for that actually requires little bit of a deep thinking of what we need to do as a human being. Okay, so what I wanted to explain this, the whole principle of what's going through the human brain at the moment in a pure neuroscience and the mindset side of things. Okay, so what happens is whatever is happening externally, um, it's the first receiver from us as a human beings is our senses. We got the five senses. Either we are watching the television, and we are hearing the news through a radio, and then like we are processing we are getting the information from the outside world, right? And then so the first, in one sense, the first level of defense for us to protect ourselves is to filter ourselves from information which triggers the fear response in us. Okay, for example, if we knew that any particular media or social media or a professional media that can actually create fear and that has created fear in us through bit of like a sensational journalism, for that matter, sensational information, not necessarily educational, then we knew that those are the kind of media we want to stay away from, because people are already in a panic mode and they don't want to fuel the fire further, right? So that's the first line of defense.
With something like Facebook, where people are going to be expressing their own fears, but they also want to keep connected to the outside world, how can people go online but also avoid coming into contact with fearful, with COVID-19 updates and that sort of thing that can cause that fear response?
Okay, How we can do it is we can, for our own mental safety, mental health safety, we can mute certain notifications. For example, if even if a person is very close to us, even family member for that matter, you know it's a good idea to mute notifications from that particular person or from a particular group that is posting content which is not necessarily good for our mental health. And then we can politely tell them that we don't need to be like shutting them off, but we can politely, oh, for my own mental health perspective and for my own safety and self-care reasons, I'm trying to minimize my social media interaction these days for, let's say, for a week or 2 weeks. And then normally people would understand what we are going through, because they are going through the same thing as well, isn't it?
Of course, yeah, yeah. Everyone's in this together.
Yeah. So that's one strategy. Again, continuing with what I was mentioning earlier, so that actually filters a lot of thing out of our mind anyway. So that's really powerful first line of defense when it comes to that. And then what about whatever happening, the thought process happening within ourselves, within our own brain? At the moment, the mind is running like 500 kilometers an hour, with all the thoughts going through and all the emotions that is getting triggered. And so what happens is that there is an almond shape organ in our brain called amygdala, which a lot of people they're quite aware of. It basically responds to a current situation where people are at, for example stress, and then fight flight mechanism, like you feel threatened, and then like you either fight the situation or you fly away from the situation. And also certain people get into the mode of freeze. They're completely frozen because they don't know what to do. uh, so that's the job of amygdala. And then but the good news is that, like, if we can breathe it out, then what happens, whatever information that we are processing through that particular organ will be like kind of like passed on to another part of the brain, which is the prefrontal cortex, which is more of the logical brain that actually makes all the logical decisions. So when the fear tries to take over, and then like we have all these different thoughts going through our mind, all we need to do is take 3 deep breaths. And people underestimate the power of the deep breathing and then pausing for a moment. But what they don't realize is that it's really, really powerful. And so for some people, that 3 seconds or even like 30 seconds is a matter of life and death, because that can actually change the whole perspective of how they want to respond to the situation. Okay, here is a little bit of a phenomena there. Okay, when people hear something, see something, what they do, they get into the panic mode. And the most common we react,
Of
and
course,
then
yeah.
let's say you see a dog and then you try to throw a stone towards the dog. That what dog is going, either try to attack you or like bark at. That is a reaction. That's a more of an animalistic behavior,
Yeah.
right? And then when we are under stress, when we are under threat, we try to behave the same. So that 3 seconds pause, or even 30 seconds pause for that matter, can take us from a react situation to a respond situation. So the response situation kicks in when we are using our logical brain.
Right.
Okay. All right. Is it clear, Steve?
Yeah. Is with taking 3 deep breaths, is there a physiological response around that? Like what happens? Does that shut the amygdala down, or does it change neurotransmitters, or what happens there?
Okay. So Basically, you know, I would like to talk about two hormones. One is cortisol and the other one is adrenaline. These are the two hormones which normally physiologically get produced when we are under extreme stress or when we are feeling threatened. So the DNA machinery in the brain, it's, and even like all throughout the body, is basically like a switch on and off, right? And then when you need to do a particular thing, that particular gene get activated. When the job is done, the gene get suppressed or deactivated. It's like a switch on and off. So for example, if a tiger is chasing you, obviously, there need to be like cortisol and adrenaline secreted in our body, and then you need to run because you need to fly or fight. And then when that is done, when you are in a safe place, it needs to be shut down. That's what the body does. But in this particular situation, what's happening is, because we are constantly bombarded with so much of information which is coming from outside and also within our own system, because we are thinking too much, overthinking, it's like a constant switched, it's like a tap open and never closed.
Yeah.
So the cortisol and the adrenaline is like, without you realizing and everyone realizing, it's like an open tap, and it's like just keep producing. And then what happens is, basically it creates a situation of our brain getting completely deep fried.
Right. Okay.
Does it
So
answer your question, Steve? Yeah.
yeah, so we can avoid updates on social media based around COVID-19. We can avoid. We can stop and take 3 deep breaths. What other strategies can we do to try and get control of our brain back and stop this fear from overtaking us?
Okay. So the other technique, once we calm down a little bit, the other most powerful way we can, we can do, because we are a little bit quiet at the moment, we have more time to reflect upon our own way of doing things, right? So what we can do is, where that particular fear is coming from, you know is that something we've been carrying for such a long time and it never got triggered, but now we have a situation here, and then, you know now it's triggered. Then you can do a little bit of a self reflection where it's actually coming from, whether it's related to a particular belief system we've been carrying, through childhood or through the adulthood, or anything that actually happened due to trauma, for that matter, which is actually triggering. For example, like someone, um, who got traumatized due to like ambulance, for that matter, maybe they had an accident or something, and then when the ambulance is passing through, maybe taking a COVID patient, and then that can actually trigger a response in you, you know and then in that situation, what can you do about it? Okay, first, again, calm down. Next, where it's coming from. Okay, this is where it's coming from, and then you are using your logical brain more. And then the most powerful way to do it is, you will immediately have a negative emotion, like a fear or anger, for that matter. And then all you need to do is change it to something positive. For example, if you're hearing an ambulance, and then the fear is, fear or stress, or like anxiety kicking in, and then, you know what can you do? You can say, like, look, what this particular ambulance is doing is, it's taking a COVID-19 patient to the hospital, and then trying to save this person's life. So it's okay, and they are just doing their job.
Yeah. Yep.
If we tell ourselves, then that is what we need. And then, like this, whatever negative emotions and negative thought we are experiencing, all we need to do is take a pause, exchange that negative thought or an emotion with a positive one, And then without you knowing, in a matter of minutes or maybe 10 or 15 minutes, you will be absolutely fine.
Yeah, sure. I'm a big fan of Piaget's work. I'm pretty sure that I just butchered his name, but he was a child psychologist in the 70s, I think, and went into child education as well from a psychological perspective. But what interested me when I was studying psychology was his idea of different frames of perspective. He called them schemas. So there was where you currently are, where you've been, and where you think that you should be, or where you're currently going. And he made the hypothesis that when there's a disparity between where you think you should be and where you actually are, that results in depression. A lot of people are losing their jobs, and that's for good reason, likely to result in an anxiety state, which, I mean, this ideal self, this idea of where they should be, is just being shattered because it's not currently possible for them. Is there a way that we can establish, we can change that perspective of this is no longer possible to this is still possible, it's just it's a hurdle, it's a rock in that we've got to either go over or drill through or go around? Or
Okay, so two concepts. Normally, why people are depressed, in one sense, they are living in the past. Okay, why people are anxious, because they are living in the future.
right, yeah,
So basically, so what's the solution for that? You got to live in the present.
yeah,
So at the moment, what we can do is, we can't go back to the past and change whatever, because coronavirus came, it's a reality. And then, what's going to happen in the future, time will tell in a matter of few weeks time. The curve is already flattening, which is a good news, and a lot of countries are doing a good job. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel, right? So all we can do at the moment is living in the present.
hmm.
So what should we do? you know Even though we see that, oh, I need to homeschool, I need to take care of, but a lot of people are taking it as a blessing, because they can spend more time with their family, they are spending more time with their kids. And then husband and wife, they are necessarily busy and then doing their business or work, they have more time to spend together. And then one of my clients yesterday mentioned to me that, even though it is a bit of a tricky situation, um, my husband is spending more time at home and with my 3-year-old son, and then I'm quite happy about it. And then, like, our relationship is actually getting better. So so there are certain positive things also happening because of that. And so the quiet time, we can reflect more upon ourselves, and then what we can do for our family, and also some of the work that we have been postponed for such a long time, we can work on those projects. And in that situation, all we need to do is, for the next 2 to 3 weeks, we just need to live in the present, and then enjoy those quiet time with our loved ones and family, and whatever we can do for the community, we can actually do that. And then this shall do pass. In 3 or 4 weeks time, one way or other, things are going to slowly get back to where, not necessarily very quickly where it was a couple of months back, but like gradually it will happen over the period of 8 to 12 weeks time. But again, the government is giving stimulus packages for businesses and people who lost the job, the rental assistance. And then, so there is definitely hope available everywhere. So we just need to have the right mindset to live in the present, and then look forward towards the future.
And I think it's easy to get caught up in the idea that 6 months of this is a very long time, but we all complain about time moving so quickly. It's not going to, it's going to seem like a long time, but if you're just taking each day at a time, 6 months, if we do have to be maintaining this, is going to come really quickly.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things will be all right. So it's quite easy for the human mind to rush through things and then worry about things. And then when we leave, when we think about our whole life, for example, we are going to live for 60 to 80 or 90 years for that matter. In a grand scheme of things, it's going to be okay. Even if we think about our own day-to-day life, we are spending almost 6 to 8 hours sleeping.
Yeah.
Right? When you look at like 7 days, 7 times 6, we can do the maths, and then like a lot of time we are spending sleeping. And then like, are we really worried about or thinking about, oh my god, I'm sleeping 6 hours? No, we don't, because basically what we are doing is we are not sleeping, but we are basically resting. There is a big difference between sleep and a rest. So the process of rest is to get our system back, and then the energy back, so we can face the next day with a lot of energy. So think about the current situation. We are sleeping 6 hours a day. What about we are taking a little bit of a rest for 6 months to reset our button, and then do more mindfulness and meditation and rest, and then like more exercise. And for the next 20-30 years, this would probably the best thing we can do to rest our body, so we can prepare for the next 20-30 years. Think about that. We don't need to go for any retreat. The retreat is right in front of you at your home.
Yeah. So what's the best way to do that? What's the best way to prepare us for when we can go back to work, when we can go back to running our business if we've had to stop running our business? How do we supercharge ourselves so that we can get the best 2021 that we possibly can?
Okay, so basically doing a little bit of an audit on what are the areas we are doing quite well, and what are the areas that actually requires more work. And then this quiet period will definitely reveal that to us, because we got more time to think about things, hopefully not overthink about things, but at least think about, okay, for example, when it comes to our overall wellness, how am I doing physically, how I'm doing, mentally, emotionally, and then financially, and then spiritually, and then socially. Of course, we can't do a lot of socialization at the moment, but we still can do a socialization through internet. So to reflect on how we are doing, and also helping our loved ones to do the same exercise as a family, as a society, as a friends, and as a business owners, will help us to gauge on like what are the areas we are doing well. There are certain areas we never thought about that, we should work on it. And I was speaking with this business owner from northern Queensland, and he said that, I got all this sorted out, like I got my employees thing sorted out, I got this insurance sorted out, and everything sorted out. He was like point by point after point, like he was mentioning how he was like eloquently, and then he did really well. And then I asked him one question, that what about your health? And then he answered, never occurred to me. And I never did anything for my own self-care. And then I asked him the next question, the toughest question, the tough question. Okay, what happens if you get hospitalized tomorrow, and then you can't run your business for 2 months.
Yeah.
And then he said, I don't know what I would do. And then, yeah, that's something you need to consider or think about, because you never thought about it. So, by doing this little bit of an audit on how we are doing on all these different things and what's important to us and to our family and to the society, will give us a little bit of a more perspective, and then bit of a soul search on what we want to do when 2021 hits us. January completely recharged our batteries. We know what are the areas we worked on and what are the areas that needs more work. We figured that out in 2020, and 2021 it's going to be a brand new year, and then everyone is, it's a great opportunity.
Yeah. So yeah, we're stopping ourselves from panicking, going into that fight or flight state by avoiding areas that are going to be trigger areas. We're taking a deep breath if we do get involved in that that sort of panic state, and we're trying to identify what's triggering that event. We're looking to the future to, in a positive manner, that it's going to end, it's going to come to a conclusion, and the things that we're doing now are basically to get us ready for a maximum exponential growth, basically, in our personal lives, in our business lives, in our employment lives, if we're employees. That all sounds pretty great to me, really. That's a great opportunity. And maybe this has enforced a little bit of thought about our own self-care as well. Do you think that that's sort of something that we would be more inclined to look at? Are you sort of finding that that's the case now?
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. So the whole opportunity that was presented, I see it as an opportunity, not as an obstacle. And then the whole opportunity presented in front of us at the moment is basically, they have this example of like, you take one step back to move forward 2 steps. That's exactly, the mindset people should have at the moment. So, that take this opportunity to take a step back, which is okay, and then you prepare yourself for 2 steps forwards. And again, physiologically, practicing the self-care and taking care of our health, and then fixing all the other issues which we never considered that needs to be fixed, will help us to strengthen our immune system for fighting any infections that's going to come very soon. Okay, I'm not scaring people here. Again, we are entering into winter, and then again in 2 months time there is going to be flu virus coming back to Australian soil, or any country with a winter coming. It's going to happen to them. So at the moment, instead of worrying about too much, like, strengthen our immune system, so that like when the winter hits, we are ready for fighting the flu again. Okay, saying that, if for some reason we have other viruses, for that matter, again, not scaring people, let's be realistic. If it comes to, then our body is ready to tackle it.
Yeah.
Right.
I think we need to be realistic about that as well. Winter is coming, to steal from Game of Thrones. And every winter, people get the flu. People get sick. And that's going to happen again. And being prepared for that is, I mean, it might seem scary at this point in time, because there are other factors to consider. But going back to what we originally spoke about, with avoiding those trigger points and looking at taking that deep breath and actually recognizing, okay, well, this is this is where we're at, this is what's going to happen, this is what I can do about it now, really brings in that sense that, okay, well, flu season is coming. What can I do about that? I can go and get vaccinated against it.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a couple of other points I would like to quickly mention is that once you identify where the trigger is coming from, you got the power to reprogram your belief system on your brain, right? And then, it's basically neuroplasticity. Some of you heard about what it is. And also, once we identify what our health issues are, because like the more mindful we are, the body never lies. That's a reality, that's a fact. The body tells you and telling you all the time, giving you the clues that what's really happening there. And then it's like we are so busy in our own world that we are not paying attention to what the body is telling to us. So in that sense, when the body says like you need to slow down, you need to take care of your liver, or you need to take care of your stomach for that matter, digestive issues, whatever, then we need to do is like not only we need to do the neuroplasticity by reprogramming our belief system and the thoughts, but also we need to reprogram our own body as well, by working on biohacking, like how we can hack our own system so that like we can fix it with whatever ailments we got, right? That's important. And the other point is that like yesterday I read a news that people are googling about how they can get over with the domestic violent issue. It's the highly searched, Google searched, item at the moment. Like people are together, and then because they haven't really like addressed their own issues, and they're all popping up, and then some people are taking advantage of this situation to hurt the other person. This is coming up as well. So it's the first step is to protect yourself, if that happens to you. And then that's the first step. And the next step is if the other person is willing to listen and have an open communication, then putting it to that other person of what is triggering them, right, will help them to do a little bit of a soul searching on their part as well. And then so the communication line is open, then both the parties can communicate about it. And then once they identify what the real problems are, then they can go and seek a professional to help them to sort whatever they are going through. So that will be more amicable and more easy way to deal with this current domestic violence situation, which is on high in Australia at the moment.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a terrible situation that's going on at the moment, and one of those things that you can't really predict until it actually happens. Unfortunately, are the domestic violence lines still open? Do you know? Is there something that somewhere for people who are in those situations? Is there a way that they can get out of those situations?
Yeah, the government created a lot of opportunities for people to call them, and also may heard that even someone need a psychological support, the government put about $70 million on having this mental health line. And also if someone needs a GP, they have like GP helpline. They can actually have a FaceTime or can talk to their GP through internet, not necessarily they need to visit a clinic. And all these new opportunities are presented to us. Again, I say it as an opportunity presented to us by the government. So it's important to keep our eyes and ears open. And then so we just need to go to reliable sources where we are getting the right information. And then if it is a social or professional media, we need to go to those reliable places where there is no bias, but they are giving the true information, not the wrong information, or like creating a fear in people. There's so much of information available in the internet. So again, we just need to be selective, and we just need to use our intelligence to search through the right channels rather than going into the wrong channels, which human beings are tend to attract to negative more compared to the positive. That unfortunately, that's the way we've been psyched in one sense.
Of course. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for today, Sam.